Hello everybody, welcome back to my channel. My name is Darylyn and today I have, I suppose, a hot take for you. That's right, today we are going to be talking about mint variegation. I don't know why this happened or when this started or why this has become such like an issue, I guess, in the plant community, the airwood community specifically, but people love to hate on mint variegation and I just don't like really see why. I don't know. I mean, so for those of you who've been online in the plant community for a long time, you know, going back to at least the end of 2019, like right before COVID, there's been this kind of like attitude towards variegation that includes like a minty light green color, that it's somehow like fake or a scam or a marketing gimmick, or it's like basic, or like you're not like a real plant lover if you like mint variegation. I don't really know like why this sentiment got started, but I'm not gonna lie, I'm kind of like exasperated by it because like I'm not gonna lie, like I will cop to being basic if that's what it takes, but I like really like mint variegation. I think it's beautiful, and especially when you have a leaf that has the regular green on it, the white on it, and then the halfway between, you know, the mint color on it. Some plants that have all three of these colors are called like a tricolor. It's freaking beautiful, and it's not fake. It exists. So I don't know, I'm just like kind of at the end of my like patience with people like hating on mint variegation and saying that, you know, if you're trying to sell a mint Monstera, you're a scammer, or if you're trying to find something that is mint variegated, that you're misinformed and, you know, you deserve to get scammed because you're misinformed because you're trying to find something that's not real. I'm just kind of sick of it. So if you're new to the online plant community and you're like, I don't know what you're talking about, well, there is kind of a like a path that I at least can connect the dots between on the internet of how this kind of started happening. And it's not all 100% ridiculous. Like there are reasons why people kind of start to turn on it at first, but at this point, like the answers are out there. And so if you're still saying the same thing, that mint is fake, or mint Monstera is a scam, or Florida Ghost mint isn't real, or blah, 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 like the information's out there as to the explanation for what these things are. And it's not fake, it's just more nuanced than it's a product that's rubber stamped off a conveyor belt that's identical, you know, unit by unit. So we're going to talk about that a little bit today because frankly, if you watch my channel, I'm sure you know what prompted this, because once again, mint variegation has bubbled up to, you know, the talk of the community. And I don't know, I'm just sick of it. Like at this point, can we all just agree that like it's time to move on from this, and that if you like things that have mint colored variegation, that's like just personal preference, and it's okay to like things and to be an individual. So I don't really know the exact timeline for when these things happened, in what order. So I'm just going to kind of go through them in the order that I remember them kind of being a thing in the community. Okay, how do I even explain this? Because there's a lot of nuance here. So there is a thing called Monstera mint. And what that is it is a fenestrating Monstera that, you know, grows upright, that is variegated, but instead of having white variegation and, you know, maybe also some light green variegation on it like this, or yellow variegation like the Monstera aurea, it has light green mint variegation on the green leaf. And it supposedly does not have white. It's just mint on green. Now, the reason that it's like kind of hard to explain is because that is the conception of Monstera mint that people who aren't in like the sport Monstera community like have in their minds. Like basically it's an albo, but instead of having white variegation, it just has mint. So this, yes, is a real thing. It's real things, as a matter of fact. But once these kind of hit the mainstream of the online plant community, everybody wanted them. Mint really had a moment like a couple years ago. I feel like back then, plant Instagram was just a very like vibey place. It was a lot more like interior design, more so than like plant nerds. And there weren't as many niches, and it was just a lot more focused on like interior decorating and like aesthetic. And these plants are absolutely incredible, and everybody wanted them. They really were unicorns back then. But what happened and why the plant kind of got a bad reputation and all of this like drama kind of started swirling around it is that there were, and I don't know anybody's intentions or that anybody did this on purpose, and I'm not accusing anyone of doing anything, but what ended up being alleged that happened in the community was that sellers were just taking regular Albo Monstera small form deliciosa that, you know, had the tricolor white, mint, green, that had a lot of mint, and calling it Monstera mint and selling it for way more money. And like looking back on that, it's really funny to me that everyone got so mad at the prices that they used to be selling these things for, because back then Monstera mint would be going for like $800 a cutting for, you know, like a one leaf cutting, and Albo Monstera like wasn't that much cheaper. I mean, at the absolute like peak of Albo Monstera mania, there were, you know, one leaf cuttings of Albo Monstera going for $600. So it's not like these people were really trying to make that much more money. But I mean, I don't know. It's not like I'm aware of every single listing that ever was on the internet, so I'm probably like wrong. But anyway, that is where the whole idea of mint being a marketing gimmick came from, because basically it was just an albo that happened to have a lot of, you know, high minty color. They were just calling it mint and then charging more for it, and it's not actually a distinct plant. And I really don't know what it is in particular about mint, that just the word mint being attached to a plant, that just makes everyone lose their minds, because it is not abnormal at all or uncommon at all for variegated plants to vary widely in price, and for there to be enormous price differences between plants that have especially nice variegation patterns, or have especially high variegation patterns, or have an especially nice feature to them, costing way more money than something that is technically the same thing but has much lower expression of what it is that you're looking for. Like, I have seen listings in auctions for, you know, plants like a caramel marble. The most gorgeous one I've ever seen priced out was $15,000. You see caramel marble all the time for a couple $1,000s, like low quadruple digits. That's a ton of money for a plant. Like, don't get me wrong. But my point is that wide price difference depending on the quality of the variegation. Same thing with the variegated Billietier. I see low variegation ones or reverted ones way less than something that's got really striking, even marbled variegation. So the fact that that is okay to happen everywhere else but not on albos, I don't know. I do understand though that there was some confusion, because Monstera mint is a real thing. There's actually two different Monstera mint. There is Monstera deliciosa large form mint, and then there is a Monstera species no ID mint. And I think that there was some confusion there because people didn't know that Monstera mint was actually like a completely different form of the plant. It wasn't just an albo that was throwing a lot of mint. It was a completely different thing. So I think that this is kind of where the whole idea of like, oh, people are scamming, trying to make more money, it's a marketing gimmick, came from. And then obviously when people learned about the confusion and, you know, it not being apples to apples of just a certain type of variegation on an albo, people were understandably annoyed about that because they felt like they were, you know, being given the runaround. But I don't know, like, it doesn't make minty albo monsteras like fake or not real. It's just like, it's a personal preference. So the Monstera deliciosa large form mint is different than the Monstera albo, and there are structural differences between the small form and the large form deliciosa. You know, variegation aside, the small form, you know, has much larger internodal spaces, it climbs more, it doesn't get as big, clearly. It doesn't have the ruffles on the back of the leaf at the base of the petiole the way the large form deliciosa does. The large form has much tighter internodal spacing. It doesn't really climb unless it's climbing a tree or a wall. It can kind of crawl along the ground, and it gets really big really fast. Like the large form Monstera deliciosa can be a meter across each leaf. That's how big they get. The Monstera Thai constellation is a form of large form Monstera deliciosa. So there is a mint variegated Monstera deliciosa large form. And I believe Jimmy from Legends of Monstera did a video about mint Monstera like probably last year, maybe a little bit before that, because he actually has one, and he pointed out that the variegation on the true Monstera mint is different than an albo. The mint variegation, it's not formed by only one layer of the leaf being variegated instead of it all being white. It's actually, if you like flip the back of the leaf over, on an albo, the parts that are minty on the front, they'll be solid on the back. And on the back of the leaf, if there's mint variegation on the back, they'll be solid green on the front, because the albo mint variegation is expressed with just not all of the layers of the leaf having variegation. The mint Monstera, what makes it different is that the mint variegation is the true color of the actual plant tissue. And if you flip it over, it's mint on front and back. That's why they call it a true mint, because the effect is not being made by just layering different colors of plant tissue on top of each other. The actual plant tissue is that color. So that's the difference. The other true mint Monstera is a species no ID. That means it is not currently recognized as being a form of Monstera deliciosa. It is a different species of Monstera that is not classified yet. And for the no ID mint Monstera, as far as I know, it does produce both mint and white variegation, but as it gets bigger, it gets mintier. That is anecdotal information that I have gleaned from people who own the plant in groups on Facebook. I've seen a lot of pictures of it. It definitely looks different than a Monstera deliciosa leaf. Like, my point is, regarding the mint Monstera, like, they're absolutely real. They're just really, really rare. And there are things about them that you should be able to tell. I don't ever see listings for mint Monstera that are actually small form albo deliciosa anymore. So I guess the shaming in the community worked. But if you want a mint Monstera, that does not make you uninformed or, you know, chasing something that's not real. And the actual people who are really, really specialized, you know, Monstera collectors, like, they have the plant, they're legitimate, they're much, much rarer than anyone ever probably thought. And if you're not paying into the 4 digits for it, it's not real. And the other thing too about the mint Monsteras is that the way that variegation happens is it's a spontaneous thing that comes from, you know, a seed. They call it a sport. Essentially, like, no two sports are exactly alike. there can be all different kinds. I mean, that's why with, you know, the classic Monstera deliciosa small form albo, most of them will give you the tricolor, you know, white, mint, green. But for a long time, the variegated adansonii was really just white and green. And then recently, the adansonii tricolor from Kunzo in Japan has bubbled up into, you know, the mainstream plant market. But they're two different plants because they're two separate mutations that happen separate of each other. So once you actually start seeing lots and lots and lots of people posting pictures of sports, you start to see that there's a lot of them that don't really fit into any category. And it's really interesting. So sometimes people go to their local garden store or big box store and find a sport and they bring it home and they'll post and be like, what do you think this is? And it's like, a lot of times, yeah, maybe it fits into the category of Aurea. Maybe it fits into the category of mint. Maybe it fits into the category of green on green. But they're really no two sports are exactly the same. So that's why you get some plants that have tons of variegation. That's why you get plants that have only marbled variegation. That's why you get some plants that'll have only half moons. That's why you get plants that are more prone to reversion than others. It's just that the mutations have happened on separate occasions in different plants, and no two are exactly alike. So mint monstera is absolutely a thing. It's just a lot more expensive and a lot more rare than we all kind of thought a couple years ago. So like if you want a mint monstera and you specifically looking for the no ID mint monstera, I mean, that's a top tier, basically unicorn level plant collector plant. Like that's like, it's not a scam, it's not a marketing gimmick, like it's a real plant. So there's that. And then the second thing that I think kind of contributed to all this nonsense was the Florida ghost mint, which Florida ghosts having mint colored leaves is absolutely a real thing that exists and happens all the time. It's not a separate cultivar or a separate form. It's just, you can get that based on the level of light that you give the plant. So if you are really interested in a Florida ghost mint, what you're actually looking for is a plant that is expressing mint coloration, and ask the person who grew the plant how to keep it that way. It's, you know, with the light. So it's not that it's fake, it's just that people, I guess, were trying to sell them for more money or something. Florida Ghost is especially kind of problematic when it comes to like variegation and the colors on it as well, because a while back there were these variegated Florida Ghosts, and they were variegated. Like they had these beautiful color patterns on their leaves, but the problem is like just like the white leaves fade down to green, when the leaves would come in with variegation, the white would still fade down to green, and at the end of the day you still end up with a green leaf. So there was that too, and this was like, I guess, the second strike for mint variegation was the Florida Ghost mint, that it was just the effect of the color on the leaves is just based on the light levels. And then that brings us to kind of the most recent to-do about a mint variegated plant, and that is the Indonesian form mint adansonii. So I actually have this plant, full disclosure. Actually, I'll go get it. That way you guys can see what it is. So this is my mint variegated Monstera adansonii. This is the Indonesian form of the plant. The drama with this has been as to whether or not the mint variegation, specifically that's coming out of Indonesia, is a virus or not. I guess there was some drama about it not being tested, or there not being evidence that it was tested, and people weren't sure it was a healthy plant, and, you know, people weren't seeing any mature ones around, and they didn't look healthy, and yada yada yada. So I don't have any kind of behind the scenes insider knowledge on what happened here and who said what to who and what really happened and whatnot. But apparently at this point, the plants have been tested and it is not a virus. So when this plant first came out, they were really, really expensive, and the prices on them dropped really, really fast. And the thing about it is that, you know, I just wanted to like show that actually, yes, there is such a thing as like a fairly big, fairly mature variegated mint adansonii. I have one here in my possession. And viruses don't normally express as a half moon, you know, all the way up the plant. That's just not how viruses work. So yeah, I don't know. I just think it's like a shame that this plant kind of got kneecapped before it could really catch on, because it's a really beautiful plant. And I've heard that the white adansonii is really difficult as far as it browns and it reverts like crazy, but this mint variegation in this plant is stable, so you don't have to worry about it reverting. I haven't had it under the best light, so it's not as bright as it probably could be, but I still think it's a beautiful plant. And I don't know. I'm just sick of it. Like, I'm just over it. I don't want to hear it anymore. You know what I mean? Like, it's so over sensationalized. We have a way of doing that in the plant community. I'm glad that they did finally test it and that this can be put to bed, because I think that one of the things that's kind of just disappointing that it all kind of like played out like this is that, so variegation is a spontaneous mutation, right? And so it's very, very unlikely to happen at any given point in time to any one particular plant. And not only is it just really rare in general, but getting variegation to show up that is attractive, well-balanced, stable, it's extremely rare. And like, I just feel, and I just can't imagine being the grower that this came from. It's like, imagine hitting the lottery and then losing the ticket. That's essentially what having a plant that you think is variegated turn out to be a virus is, because a sport that's this stable and unique and good is so rare. So I don't know, like, I really would like it if we could all just let Monstera mint and Florida Ghost mint and adansonii mint just like live their lives and just use the term for what it is, which is that it is just a color, and it's like plain to see that it is a real color and it exists. And if you like the way that mint variegation looks, like, that shouldn't be something that like people ridicule you for, you know what I mean? I don't know, I'm sick of it. So that's my little rant, the tea on that. All of those things do exist. They're just, you know, slightly misrepresented or misunderstood by some people. And I don't know, this video has been really rambly. I'll probably have to refilm it. So yeah, bye.